Hi, my name is Keith Smith. I'm a freelance PHP programmer, and I've been a freelance PHP programmer since 2006. Today, I'd like to talk to you about who are the freelance PHP programmers out there in the wild. So I have some notes. It's a pretty long, there's a lot of information to talk about. So the first thing I would suggest when you are looking for a programmer is that you assess your need. Sit down, think about what you want. I would write it down on paper, type it up even, reorganize it. I would spend some time thinking about it. And then when you're done, then start talking to programmers about what you want them to build for you. And you'll find out probably you forgot a few things. And even when you work with a programmer and you go through the whole discovery process, things are missed and they need to be added as you're doing the project. So let's move on to, okay, so here's what I'm saying. If I were a business person looking for a programmer, I would hire direct. I wouldn't go through any of these job sites like Fiverr because they're going to keep you from really getting to know the programmer. To work directly with the programmer, you're going to have to work through the communication systems they provide, and I just don't like that. As a programmer, as a freelancer, I like to have direct contact with whoever it is I'm doing the project for. It allows me to talk with them more. It allows me to do a lot more discovery, and I just like it. We can build rapport with each other. We can just see if we work well together, and I can be, more frank probably than I would be able to go through one of those job sites, because you're just exchanging emails for the most part, and we could get on the phone and we can talk. I think it's very, very important. So let me see what I have on my list here. You can get to know the person a little better. I already talked about that. You can evaluate the perspective of the developer. When you go on these job sites, you see what they've written about themselves, and you'd only get a small bite. When you call somebody up on the phone and you're really interested in putting a project together, you get a chance to really talk to them, and you can start peeling back the layers, finding out about what kind of experience they have, what do they like doing, what they don't like doing. There's a whole bunch more that you can find out about this prospective freelance programmer. Let's see. Have a better chance of building rapport. I talked about that. You can make the developer a member of your team. Yes, if you go to one of these job sites and you hire somebody to do a project, they're always going to be at an arm's length with you. If you find a programmer, you like them and you have a lot of work, you can make them part of their team. I've had that happen, and it's just it's a win-win situation for both sides. So let's talk about who the freelance programmers are out there, and we're specifically talking about PHP because that's what I do. So who's out there? There's the guy or the gal that's between jobs, and that can be very problematic because they can get your project going and then they can get a job and go on and leave you with just a bit of your project done or a lot of your project done, and now you got to find somebody else to pick up the slack or start over. Not a good fit. You have high school students, junior high students, college students. My hat's off to those people because they're entrepreneurial and they're trying to do something positive, but you're competing with a lot of other distractions. They're young people, they want to date, they want to go out with their friends, they may not be motivated to work on your project all the time, and you might end up taking a lot longer to complete your project, and your project might not even get completed. So, but there's trade-offs, and I'll explain that. You have the hobbyist. Somebody that knows how to program in PHP, maybe built a couple of sites or a couple of apps, and you want to hire them, but they're hobbyists. So this is taking the back seat to their full-time job or their part-time job, their vacations, their family activities, and everything else. This is a hobby. So that's something to really consider. Okay, offshore developers. Wow, my first PHP project was cleaning up an offshore project. Now, I don't have anything against offshore programmers. I've run into some really good ones. One of the things I find out is there's a huge problem with communications and with time zones. Time zones is a big one. If you're in Arizona like I am, and you want to work with somebody that is in India, you might be looking at 12.5-hour difference. So that means 8 o'clock in the morning is 8:30 their time, or 8 o'clock their time. So, just work that through your day and start realizing that, wow, I've been on phone calls during my regular hours, and the other person on the other side in India was it was 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night for them. So these are things to consider. And so now a professional PHP programmer, that's what I consider myself. I'm a professional PHP programmer. I keep regular hours. I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, so I'm in that time zone. But I usually start up around 9 and I can end at 5. If I have a meeting and we're trying to schedule a meeting, we can schedule out time outside of regular work hours. But if you're in the United States, we're only going to be 2 or 3 time zones difference, the max. So it'll make it a lot easier for us to work with. And I keep regular work hours. I have a business email address. I have a business website. Actually, I have several business websites. And I've been doing this for a long time. So you can call me directly on my cell phone. I used to have a landline. I got rid of it. Cell phone service is so great now. Why have 2 phones? I don't use a fax anymore. I create PDFs and just send them through an attachment email. So, for me, and of course, I'm a little biased here because I'm a professional PHP programmer. I recommend that at the very most, that would be the person I would hire if I had a project. But let's talk about some of this stuff. Some of these people that I mentioned will work for less than what a pro will work for. I'm saying that a professional PHP programmer should make at least contract 1099 at least $100 an hour, and I like to make around 130. With the inflation now, you're going to see those dollar amounts go up. I think that 150 is still pretty reasonable given the current economy. And so, but you're looking at a professional, somebody that's going to be there, is going to answer the phone, is going to return your emails in a timely fashion. Somebody that's working on your project on a daily basis. So, yeah, and going to give you feedback along the way. So, we'll do things on an agreement. So, it's a lot more formal, but you know what? You might find a high school student or a junior high school student that's good, and there's some of them out there. There's some good developers that are young, they're still in school, and maybe they'll meet your need. Maybe you don't need your project done right away. Maybe you need it, you can trade a little bit of equity in that and pay them $35 an hour or $50 an hour. And maybe it doesn't get done as fast. Maybe they're not always available. But if you're willing to work with those things and you want to get a cheap project, you can do that. If you want to work with somebody offshore, that's fine. I have a friend that does offshore. He's not a programmer. He's in real estate, and he likes working with offshore people because they're cheap. But he does a lot of management, so there's sweat equity there. That money he saves, he's actually taking out of his own pocket because he's working a lot of extra hours to get things done. So there's a lot of trade-offs here. You know, I've seen people start a project and then disappear, or take a job and say, hey, you know, I'm 3/4 of the way done, or I'm 25% the way done, and you know, nice doing business with you, and here's my invoice. And then they take off. And so then you have to go find somebody to pick up that project and run with it. And I'll tell you right now that most programmers do not like to work with other people's code. They would prefer to start from scratch as the beginning programmer and do the complete system. Not always true. There's people out there that'll pick up somebody else's work and do it, but you know, a lot of people don't like doing that. You know, you step into somebody else's game, and we don't all program the same. I'm telling you, we're all different. So let's see what's next. Okay, so let's talk about the division of developer skills. Okay, so you know, for me, I do a lot of, so I use a hosting company which has professional system developers, but I can do some system development stuff along with my programming, which is a little unique. Sometimes you'll get a programmer that's good with making graphics and doing design work. That's not me. I can do some design, but I'm not as good as a professional designer. There are people out there that do some really nice work. I'm not that person. I don't have the skills to make things beautiful, but I can make them functional and clean, and they look nice. So you know, there is a division here. So you know, you're looking at HTML, which is the I would say that's the bone structure of a website. You have cascading style sheets, which is your font sizes and font styles and families and colors and all of that. The styling of your website, your web pages. You've got JavaScript, which you know, some of these bigger organizations, they'll have a person doing maybe on the front end doing HTML and CSS, and maybe some graphics work, or maybe they even have a graphics designer separate from all of that. I've worked with people that are like that. And you'll have somebody, if it has a lot of JavaScript involved in the project, they may have an exclusive JavaScript programmer. Now I do all my own JavaScript. And so you could have a PHP programmer, and that's all they do. They're going to have some database skills. But you might bring in somebody, depending on the project, that does the scripting for the the query language scripts for the website. And you know, so there's a lot of division of labor here. And not everybody can do it all. It's just way too much. Some people, they call them full stack developers. I like to consider myself a full stack developer, and what that means is you can do the front end, the back end, and you know, the HTML, the cascading style sheets, JavaScript, you know, the PHP, the MySQL database stuff, and the Linux stuff. I'm not a system administrator, even though I can do a lot of this stuff. You know, I try to do as much as I can, and I do a lot of it. But then again, you know, I don't need to be a full system administrator, because we're going to offload your project onto a professional server that's run by a data center that has full-time, very talented, you know, systems administrators. So I don't need to have those skills, and as we were talking about earlier, the type of programmer you're going to find out in the wild, and these people have varying skills as well. You know, some are going to have really intense skills. Some people are going to be better at some things than others, And so these are all the things you should be looking out for when you're doing your project. These are some things to consider. And when you're writing up your needs, you need to write that up the best that you can. I understand you're a business person. You're not a system, you're not a developer. You're not a system administrator. You're not a Linux guy or gal. And that's the reason why you're looking for a consultant or a freelancer. And I get that. But you need to sit down and you need to really think through some of these things. Let's see what we have here next. Okay, basics to look for when hiring a developer. And we're talking about a freelance PHP developer. So, skill level and experience. Now, we talked about those people like a junior high school student or a high school student or a college student. They're probably not going to have as much experience as a professional. I personally been out here doing this since 2006. That's a lot of years. I don't think there's any high school students that have the amount of time involved. But there's going to be some pretty sharp kids out there. I'm telling you, junior high school, I rubbed shoulders with a couple of them that were just really impressive. So you just don't know what you're going to get. You're looking at entry level, mid level, and senior level programmers. That's what you're going to find out there. So entry levels, I wouldn't have an entry level programmer unless you approach this where it's let's just get it done and we'll take our time, we'll enjoy ourselves. You can get an entry level programmer. You're going to probably have to help them. They don't understand about running a business. They don't understand that I run into these kids that think that they can work 40 hours a week. Because they did that in corporate America. As a developer, and we'll circle back to this, you're not going to work 40 hours a week. You're just not. You can't. You got too many other things to do. So then we need to talk about what niche are they in. We talked about their skill level, but their skill level in what? Are they a generic PHP programmer? Do they make custom programming? They do custom programming, or are they an app developer? Do they do WordPress? And there's a couple of other apps that are really big in the WordPress ecosystem. And are they like Magento? Magento is a shopping cart, and you have to have some serious skills to deal with that thing. I'll tell you, wow, it's a monster. So that's a niche though. I like to look at myself in two niches, WordPress, and I haven't done a lot of WordPress, but I've studied it a lot. And the other one is application development, browser-based applications. You can run your business off a browser-based application, and I like to consider myself as an app developer using PHP and MySQL. And as an example, that would be your bank app. Now, your bank app's probably not done in PHP. It's probably done in .NET, which is a Microsoft coding language. But you can do just as much with PHP and MySQL, probably less expensive. You don't have to have a Windows server. There's a lot of reasons. I'm not going to get into them all. But there's a lot of reasons why you would want a PHP programmer to build your web-based app. To run a business or a portion of your business. So we talked about niches. Let me flip the page here. Communication skills. Wow. Man, I'll tell you what, I run into some people that are just dynamite when it comes to communication skills, but I run into some people that are a little shy, aren't very good at communicating, and let me tell you what, that is a pet peeve of mine. If you're running a project, you need to stay in contact with your customer and give them a lot of feedback as often as possible, whenever it's practical, and get them involved so that your project doesn't go off the rails. And I've seen this happen. A programmer will work on something for 2 or 3 or 4 weeks and then show it to the owner, and the owner goes, oh, we have a miscommunication here, and pretty soon the programmer just disappears. And the way to solve that is to deliver bits of the application as you build it to the app owner, or whoever's paying you for this project, and let them review it, so that if there's any kind of adjustments that need to be made, they're made incrementally and early on before you get too carried away with things. Because that happens. Believe me, it's going to happen. If you ever do a web project, you're going to find out that you either forgot something, or you added something you really didn't need, or there might have been a little bit different thought in your head versus your programmer's head on what you want to accomplish and how you want to accomplish it. And that's why communication is extremely important, and that's why it's my pet peeve. Ability to self-motivate. Oh my gosh, think about that. You're a junior high student, you're busy with basketball or baseball or football. You got a couple hours a week to work on this project, and maybe you just don't feel like it this week. So what happens with your project? 2-3 weeks go by with no attention, and that may be okay for you. Maybe you're okay with that. You need to find somebody that if you're going to be a freelance PHP programmer, you have to be self-motivated. Okay, let's talk about the ability to run a small business. Okay, as a freelance PHP developer, I am a one-man band. Now, I may supplement my work and add other people in as needed, but for the most part, I'm a one-man band. So let's look at that. When I sat in the cube, my employer provided me a computer, a desk, air conditioning, a place to work, heat, a bathroom, software, network, everything I needed. I had all the support: billing, sales, accounting, marketing. All these things were built into the system, and I was just a cog. I was doing my part of about 6 or 8 different functions. But as an independent contractor or a freelance programmer, I have to do sales, I have to do marketing, and so marketing would be my website, figuring out where prospective customers are, getting them to come talk to me, contact me with projects, and then I have to put on the sales hat. When they contact me, I need to start talking in terms of sales, contracts, agreements, and all of that. I need to find out what they need. I need to tell them how much it's going to cost. If we have a qualified opportunity here, then we sign an agreement, and we have to transfer money, and so I have to do my own banking. I have to do my own accounting. I have to keep records so I can give it to my CPA so they can do my taxes. There is a lot that goes into this. And let me tell you something. A lot of these young people think that haven't done freelance work, they think that they can do freelancing or programming 40 hours a week. Nuh-uh. I figure half of my time is taken up by non-billable hours. So when I work a project, I work it and I bill it based on 20 hours a week. Because I can't do that. I have to do other things. I have to continue to market. I have to continue to do sales. Because your project might only take me 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. Even if it takes me a couple months, I need to keep my hopper full. Because every time I don't have a project and I'm sitting here twiddling my thumbs for 20 hours a week, I'm losing money. And so I need to spend my time doing all the things I need to do plus working projects. So where are we now here? So yeah, ability to run a small business. Very, very important. And when you run into these kids that are, junior high school or college or maybe they just quit their job or they're in between a job or whatever, they may not understand that dynamic. They grab your project and they bill you $50 a week, $50 an hour, And the next thing you know, they're getting frustrated because they've got all these other things they have to do as well. So it's something to look at. When people charge low, you need to wonder why. And you need to wonder if your project with them, it will be viable. Okay, so technical skills a freelance PHP programmer must have. We talked a little bit about this with the division of skills. But I believe a freelance PHP programmer needs to know HTML, cascading style sheets. They need to know JavaScript and a JavaScript library. Of course, they're a PHP programmer, so they need to program in PHP. They need to know a database, the database they're going to use. In my case, it's MySQL, MySQL. Is the data engine, and you need to know how to talk to that. You need to know how to code your PHP so you can get your data in and out and be able to display it and so on. Then you may need some Linux skills. I believe Linux hosting is important, and I know a considerable amount of Linux and how to build a web server and those kind of things. And I think all developers should know how to do that. But that's not the case though. I hear there's a lot of developers out there that don't know anything about Linux. You need to know a code editor, and that's kind of a given. You need to have your code editor so you can edit your code and do stuff like that. But there's a lot to know. The learning curve is probably, if you dedicated yourself to it for 6 to 9 months, maybe. But you're really, I think the learning curve is a year. I've told people 2 years. Depends on how far you want to go. So, okay, so soft skills. Let's talk about soft skills. At my level as a professional PHP developer, a freelance PHP developer, I think leadership is very important. I think that I need to take a leadership role in the project. I need to give the project owner some very frank feedback so that they understand what they're getting themselves into and what to expect. Teamwork, because I know I'm an independent, but I'm also on a team with at least one other person. That would be the business owner or the person that's hired me to do this project. So you need to be a team member, and you're talking about hosting. I've dealt with hosting companies, pricing, all that kind of stuff during my tenure. Communication skills, I went over that. You gotta have communication skills, it's paramount. If you want successful projects, there needs to be good communications. Work ethic, you gotta have, to be an independent, you gotta have a good work ethic. And that means anybody that's doing freelance work. You got to have a good, strong work ethic. Flexibility and adaptability. Boy, wow. I just talked about releasing your software upgrades incrementally so that you can get your the owner, business people involved, looking at it, testing it, seeing if it's what they want. Because if there's a problem, of course, this is the way you become flexible. You're going to have to fix it and change it and move on and keep going forward. And so it's extremely important that you be flexible. You can't have these people that think they own the project. It's not my project, it's your project. You're the one that's paying me, and we have an agreement. And so, I don't own the project. I'm not going to try to own it or it's your project. Okay, so now you know that freelancers work remotely. So I'm in Arizona. We don't have daylight savings time, so we're on mountain time most of the year, and then we're on Pacific time part of the year. And we don't flip-flop back and forth. We just stay at one time. It's Arizona time. And so if you're in the east, you might be 2 or 3 hours away, different from me. If you're on the West Coast, you might be in, depending on what part of the year it is, you might be the same time as me, or I think an hour behind. I just want you to know that, you know, we work remotely. Compensation, oh my gosh. Let me lay this down here. Okay, compensation. Let's have a heart-to-heart here. If you hire offshore, I think you might spend, I don't know, $12, $14, $15 an hour to find somebody competent, and that's a good rate. That's an excellent rate. But you're gonna work hard to get this person to do what you need them to do. And I talked about all of that, the time zone issue and language barriers and all of that. Now, if you're hiring some kid in high school, junior high school, college, senior high school, you might get away with $35, $50, $60 an hour. But again, you're going to have, it's a trade-off. You're going to be competing with a lot of other things. They want to go visit their friends, they want to go out, they want to eat pizza, they want to get involved in extracurricular activities at school. They're going to school, and when you add all that up, and they might have a hobby, maybe freelancing is a hobby, but still, you're not going to get from them what you would from a freelancer, a professional freelancer. If it's somebody between jobs, yeah, they're going to bust their tail probably, but then they may disappear because they get a full-time job somewhere. So, you know, compensation, I think I said somewhere between $100 and $150 for a pro. That's worth it all day long, because you're gonna spend that much money anyway if you go with you know, someone else that's not a professional, because you're gonna have to work really, really hard to keep your project going. I would also say that compensation. Yeah, I mean, go out there and look around. Programmers are making, I think I read, $91,000 a year. PHP programmers, a senior programmer makes, no, it was just the average. An average PHP programmer makes about $91,000 and some change. And if you convert that from W-2 to 1099, guess what? They're paying Social Security as an employee, and they're paying Social Security, Medicare as the business owner. So instead of paying 7.62%, now they're paying 15.3% for Social Security, Medicare. They have to pay for their own medical benefits. My next door neighbor's paying $1,500 a month for his wife, himself, and his kid. $1,500 a month. You have 401k, you have other things like, you know, you have to buy your computers, open source stuff like PHP is free, code editor that I use is free, there's a lot of free stuff. You know, you use your cell phone now, so you're going to have a cell phone anyway. You probably need a hosting account or two. And you're going to buy probably an extra computer or two that you need to do your work. So not a lot of overhead, but I would consider a couple $100 a month in overhead to be reasonable for a freelance PHP programmer. And so, you know, you considering all of that, and that they can only work 20 hours a week on average because they have all these other non-billable activities they have to do to maintain a business. When you put that all together, 120, 140, 160 an hour becomes very, very reasonable, because you're just renting this person. You don't have to pay for their any of their employee expenses. You go out there and hire an average PHP programmer for $92,000 a year, set them in a chair, and add all the other expenses up, and wow, you're going to be paying health care, you're going to be paying for vacation, you're going to be paying for any other time off they have, like sick leave, 401k matching, and maybe there's a couple of other things you're going to pay for. You might end up paying for their cell phone. So when you add all this up, yeah, do the math. You're going to come out with $140, $160 an hour is very, very, very worth it, because you're just going to rent this person for the duration when you need them. So anyway, I think we covered a lot of ground. This is going to be a long video, I get the feeling. Didn't intend it to be like that, but there's a lot to know about what's going on out there with the freelance PHP programmers and who you might hire and what to consider. So my name's Keith Smith, and if you find this information useful, subscribe to my channel, and give me a thumbs up, and set the notification bell. And by all means, I'd like to see you out here again soon. So for the most part on this channel, I'm going to be teaching other people what I know. But if you're a business person, maybe you want to follow along, maybe you don't. There's stuff to be learned. But at any rate, you know, if you found this useful, by all means, please subscribe. So my name's Keith Smith. I'm a freelance PHP programmer. I can be reached at 480-748-9893, and my email address is Keith, that'll be Keith, at phpcoder, that's CODERUSA.com. And I look forward to hearing from you. If you have any questions, you want to do a project, by all means, give me a holler. So anyway, I wish you the best of luck with any projects you may take on. So have a good day. Bye.